So you want to inspire social change, but you need to build a collective or gather community input to do it right. How do you get started? Building a collaborative is no easy feat. Getting diverse stakeholders, community members, partners to engage authentically is a job on top of the goal you've already set out to achieve. But don't sweat it. I know you have what it takes, and I want to see you be successful. So in this video, I'm going to take you through how you can build both effective and accountable partnerships. Creed, leave the cat alone. Sit down. I'm going to show you how you can build both effective and accountable partnerships while in the process of collaborating. For me, it comes down to 3 simple principles. Principles you've probably already heard, but maybe didn't realize they were operating principles. People need to feel heard, understood, and valued. Those are the 3 principles. It's super simple, yet complicated. If you can create a culture where people feel heard, understood, and valued, not only will you gain partners for life, but more than that, you're laying the groundwork for a truly inclusive and equitable approach. So let's get into the framework. So phase 1 is being heard. We're at the very beginning of building what will eventually become a collective. When you're engaging with diverse groups of people, the foundation, the starting point of coming together begins with individual whys. Yes, the goal is to be a collective, it's to have one voice, it's to be a body, if you will. But you will never get to that corporate voice without first taking the time to understand and to inquire about the individual whys. People are inspired, they remain engaged, and they commit to opportunities that affirm their own personal worldview. Yes, it's true that people show up for the value, our incentives, whether it's program access or stipends or food or what have you, but they stay for those things that affirm their own core beliefs and their own values. It becomes bigger than themselves. It touches their identity. It touches their own hope and ambitions and vote for what type of world we live in when they can contribute to something that they believe in. And you don't just come to a space of believing. There's already got to be a thread of your own personal belief wrapped into what this thing is. That's honestly what I love about collectives and collaboratives. They're unfinished. They're about what's possible, and they become what the group makes it. So I can have a seed, I can have an idea, but the group brings about the soil and the placement on the land and what else maybe can go in the garden and the nutrients and ingredients that may be missing to make it its full self. And so that seed by itself outside of the dirt is nothing. That vision, the idea, the hope, it's nothing until it's actually placed in the soil. And that's what your collective is. Your collective is going to help you see the fuller picture of what this opportunity can be. And so you want to take the time to meet people where they are. That's exactly what that means. Meet people where they are means to stop, to inquire, to learn, to engage, to care about why that individual, that willing person who said yes to your invitation is even there. Hearing from people quite literally means inquiring about their interest and why they are there and what's valuable to them and what those values and interests are anchored in terms of beliefs. What does it do for their identity to be in this space and to be a part of your cause, right? But you can't learn those critical pieces about others, and they are critical. Side note, when you take the time to uncover what is important and valuable to the diverse group of people that are before you, you will naturally unearth what the common ground is, where the crossroads are, what the shared interest is. And that's where an individual why becomes a corporate why. And again, the power of a why to keep people engaged and committed and inspired is going to be crucial throughout the process and journey of your collective. So that is why it's critical for you as the convener and the holder of this new collaborative and collective space to learn what is so important or valuable in their yes, But you cannot learn about their beliefs and their interests and their values without providing that diverse group of people something to respond to. This is a very common and easy mistake to make in collaboratives. Because the nature of a collaborative is that it's unfinished, it's in process, it is literally building the plane while flying it. Most conveners or holders of collectives are very unsure and insecure about taking steps without the group or making decisions without others. And so we tend to just say, well, it's open. It can be whatever you want it to be. It can be this, it could be that. But the problem with that is that it leaves people spinning. It leaves people in a place where they are becoming stuck because they don't know how to process. They don't know what they're supposed to be thinking about. They definitely can't see themselves in whatever. They need to understand what the parameters are. And there are parameters. We'd be lying to say that there's not. And so that's really where the offense happens. It's not in that you made a decision or you provided some direction without having feedback. We're all here already for the feedback, but it's that you did not provide us with the safety that we needed to fully show up and be ourselves. It's a balancing act, I will admit. Again, building a collective is no easy feat. But if we go in and set up the space just to learn, but out of respect for what we know we need to learn, we provide what is true about the situation already and give folks something to respond to, we are helping people be their best selves. So here's how you can be prepared for your first few meetings. Here's how you can give folks something to respond to and help to set up or secure their safety. You want to be thinking about 3 things in preparation for engaging with those who said yes. You want to be thinking about what your vision is, what your desired outcome is, and what your effort is anchored into. Okay, you're the individual who has the most information, and it may feel like you don't have enough answers, but you're the one who's extending the invitation. You're the one who wrote the grant proposal or received the funding. And so it may not be complete, but you have more information than those who are showing up. So be prepared. Create a description for what your hope is. That's the vision. What do you hope happens here? What are those adjectives, right? What is your desired outcome? Meaning, what is the why for all of this? Why is this going to be worth anybody's effort and time and investment? And then last but not least, what is your effort anchored in, which just means what's already fixed? Is there a specific deliverable that has to be adhered to? Is there a specific timeline? Do we have to engage with a specific community? Maybe you can build on these things and inform what it looks like, but what is already fixed and has to be honored? If you come prepared with the hope, the why, and what's fixed, your team is going to have the time and the permission to process what you're saying. They'll begin to think about why it matters to them, what they agree with what you're adding, or they'll ask questions because they hear the possibility of a connection to a value that they have, but they didn't hear it completely. So they'll ask a question, and now you're learning about where they're coming from, what makes them tick, and what they're interested in. And all of a sudden, the crossroads begin to emerge. Moving into phase 2, being understood, is where we transition from individual or personal whys to a shared vision. During phase 1, you are listening to understand, you're collecting feedback and insights about people's worldviews. And in doing so, you are finding the natural crossroads of shared value and or shared vision. You're also starting to build the culture that your group is going to abide in. And so people learn how to hear and receive from one another. After you have achieved understanding what the natural crossroads are, then you're ready to step into phase 2. And in being understood, you are actually giving back to everyone what you learned from them. So you provided them with a starting point. Here's what I know. Here's my hope, my why, and what's already fixed. You receive from others what they think about it and what they think about themselves and what they think about the opportunity. And then as you move into phase 2, you give it back to them. So you help people identify or confirm, yes, this is our shared vision. This is where we come together. This is what I'm invested in. This is a worthy cause. Within phase 2 is where you begin to actually build the infrastructure for the culture that you have begun to establish. So in practice, phase 2 is where you accomplish what your iterative process looks like. You've probably already tested a few things in feedback loops with the initial inquiries of people's individual whys, and now here's where you start to lock in things that actually work for your group. You are thinking about how you're tracking growth and development, so you're actually thinking with your team, if this is our shared vision and these are our shared values, this is where we want to go, then how do we identify what success looks like and what growth and progression towards that shared goal look like? So being understood is legitimizing and locking in what we all heard with success indicators and tracking methods. You're taking a second to check in the understood space around the culture that you're building. It's already starting to happen organically in the way people talk together, the way that people are ruminating or meditating and sharing back ideas. It's happening in the attitudes towards one another, the habits that are starting to be created in the space. And so your culture is already being built. But before it gets too far gone, phase 2, checking for understanding, is where you kind of want to lock in what kind of culture do we want to build. Here's where you can reflect back the norms, the things that people say they want to abide by. Are they working? Are we abiding by them? Does something need to be edited or updated? Are we ready to talk about what conflict resolution looks like? We are making progress. Yay. And as we make progress, it's true that we'll probably hit a space where we disagree or we misunderstand each other. So now, while we're in a space of understanding, what do we want to lock into our culture in terms of what conflict resolution looks like, right? So here's the space where you can legitimize, affirm, and lock in cultural attributes that everyone agrees with because they've gotten to know each other a little bit more, and it helps people feel understood based upon how we've been engaging and what you've heard from me. I can see why, and even inform in a little bit more of a concrete way what I want this to be, what I want it to feel like moving forward. I even have examples of things that I can address that maybe I don't like because I've spent some time with you, as opposed to trying to lock everything in meeting number 1, right? Phase 2, being understood, is also about thinking about what you have and how you're going to leverage it. So you've been listening, you've been noticing different skill sets. People maybe have volunteered to do certain things, or they explain about what they do for work, or they have told you about what they can contribute depending on the prompts and investigation and inquiries that happened in phase 1. So now is your time to think about what are the roles and responsibilities that you want to offer to this group so everyone feels like they belong and that they're contributing and that they have a lane to operate in. This is going to help you build an infrastructure for ownership. So you're thinking about what do you have, not what's beyond the group. That's also a common mistake that I see in collaboratives or collectives, is that people are afraid to ask, people are afraid to require, because everything should be because you want to do it. And we don't always want to do things. You're still in the beginning phases of creating commitment and creating what the systems are going to be when people drift or don't feel like operating at their highest level. That's normal, that's human. And most likely your collective or collaborative is an extra thing that you're doing on top of your job. And it's same for the other people who are investing their time. And so you really want to be mindful about putting in those infrastructures and systems that people can depend on. One of those systems are roles and responsibilities, giving people lanes to operate in and clarity about what their contribution is. They will generate ideas, and they should have permission to be innovative and experiment within that role and responsibility, but they should still have a lane to do those things in. It provides a level of safety. Phase 3, trust is being built, relationships are being formed. You are now in the phase of being valued. Okay, so being valued is really about your honor system or your incentive system. It's the things that you are affirming that tell everybody or put back into the culture what's going to stick, what's going to sustain, what's acceptable, what are our norms. We can say what our norms are, we can call out what our assumptions are, we can say what we want or what we believe, but really it's what we incentivize, it's what we celebrate, it's what we affirm that's actually going to stick. And so after you have taken the time to hear from everybody, and then you have demonstrated what you understood by solidifying things with helpful infrastructure, now you are going to show that you appreciate what is happening that is in alignment with what was heard and what was understood by the collective. Okay, so what you're looking for is ways of celebrating. Are you celebrating every time you hit a milestone? Are you acknowledging folks when they show up in helpful ways? Are you calling out actions and or progress of alignment? It doesn't have to be every time we stop, we spend money, we buy cake, and we have a party. But what are those things that you are affirming verbally? What gets special recognition? What gets an email sent back, an email of gratitude? What are those small ways that you are acknowledging that is the appropriate behavior, that is in alignment with our cultural norms, and that is helping us to achieve our desired outcomes, right? So you want to think about your incentive programs. You want to think about what you're celebrating and what you're affirming, because that solidifies the culture that's going to sustain. The second thing you should be thinking about in this phase of bringing value is, how is everyone's time commitment being honored? Now, equity means that this should be diverse. It's not going to look exactly the same for everybody. It needs to be appropriate for the different roles that are being held within your collective. It's going to be a merit of different things. Examples would be, maybe there are stipends and gift cards or gas cards for certain folks. You are being mindful to start on time and end on time. You're providing dinner. Maybe there are tokens of gratitude sprinkled throughout whatever the term is that you guys are going to be together. And absolutely, we're making sure that folks are getting credit. If they're there, they're committing their time, they're committing their intellectual property. We want to make sure that whatever's being developed is giving credit to everyone who participated. That is a beautiful way to honor everyone's time commitment. Okay, so how are you honoring folks' time? The other thing that is important to think about in this phase is, how are the realities of individuals being respected? So this one's a little bit more of a subtle one. It's easy to skirt, but if we are here to demonstrate value within the collective, it's important that we are thinking about these smaller things and we're being intentional to meet people where they're at. So an example of considering the realities of individuals are, if I want parents and youth to be a part of this space, then I think it's important to make sure they can actually get there. So if people do need gas cards, or if people need rides, or if we need to be mindful of the locations of our meetings because transportation is an issue, that's what it means to honor and be respectful of the realities. If someone has a disability and they cannot see clearly, or they have sensitivities because of a disability, then how are we being mindful about the lighting in the room, or volume, or if it's too cold or if it's too hot? And it's not meant to give you more things to trip over, but it means being clear and aware about what your collective needs. Not every collective needs for you to be concerned about the temperature or the lighting. But if you have someone in your group who has a sensitivity to light, or a sensitivity and an inability to hear, then that's something that you need to be mindful of every single meeting. Okay, so that's what it means to respect the individuals that are part of this group. Then value is not something that actually is meant to wait until the third phase. There is a phase once relationship has been built and trust has been established, where you start to celebrate, you start to solidify, you start to look back and acknowledge the growth that people have made. But really, you can be demonstrating value across all phases of the work, and you should be doing that. So in the phase of being heard, phase one, the way to create value is just to consistently think about, how are you creating access? So this kind of takes us back to, does your intentionality meet your ambition? Do you have the tools and resources available to hear from everyone equally? Do you have an agenda or project timeline that supports the comprehension and contribution from everyone that's participating in this collective? So if you are thinking of that in the beginning, and you're working to answer those questions throughout the design and the coordination of your functions, then you are going to be providing value. I value you being here. I value your voice. I want to hear from you, and I'm demonstrating that through having the tools and resources available to hear from everyone equally. I'm demonstrating that by creating enough meetings and enough space in our project timeline for you to be able to effectively contribute and participate in this process, right? There's nothing worse than being invited to a party and then you can't get in the front door, or you are sitting far away from where the activities are actually happening. So you want to make sure that there's not just an invitation, but you're creating an inclusive space that communicates that you value the fact that they are even there. In phase 2, when it's time to move into those infrastructure and system building phases of demonstrating your understanding, then the way to create value in that space is to be thinking about how are you sustaining. It's only phase 2. You're still in the beginning of the work, but thinking about sustainability from the beginning is a way of demonstrating value. And we kind of talked about that a little bit. What does conflict resolution look like? That is a sustaining practice, because we know conflict is going to be a part of any relational experience, but there's a way to do it in a healthy manner. There's a way to do it that still honors what we were excited about in good times. We can still honor that in bad times. And so thinking about conflict resolution is a way of sustaining. Identifying what participatory decision making looks like. What are those systems of coming to consensus and decision? Because this is a collective and we do want to operate with one voice, is a way of sustaining and showing value in the phase of being understood. Last but not least, accountable effective partnerships. At the beginning of this video, I promised that I was going to show you how to develop accountable effective partnerships. If you honor the 3 phases that are rooted in 3 principles, helping folks feel heard, understood, and valued, you will produce accountable effective partnerships. And you will know that you have produced that when the tables shift and you go from seeking opportunities and making and pleading your cause to receiving opportunities, people seeking you out because what you've built is rare, is valuable, is clear, and people will make work for you. They see your value add in what they're doing. Provision follows vision. The prefix pro means in favor of, a vote for. And so provision comes to clear shared vision. And that is going to be an indicator that you are achieving and encroaching on something very powerful and worthwhile. When you are in that space of receiving opportunity and you have achieved what you would quantify as accountable effective partnership, your work isn't done. It's just beginning. And there are some things that you can be thinking about with your group as you have encroached into a very healthy territory, but you want to build out for the long haul and you have quite a ways to go before you actually achieve the collective goal. The practice in the space of accountable effective partnership is as follows. You want to be thinking about who is on the team and who isn't. So there is the validation, the appreciation, the constant checking in to make sure that you're leveraging what you have and that people feel fulfilled within their roles and responsibilities on the team. But as you grow, your need grows. So what are we missing? What other expertise or representation do we need in the collective? In the space of effective, accountable partnerships, you want to be thinking about how you're investing. How are you reinvesting within your group? If you're bringing in money or if you're making progress or if you're getting donations, whatever it looks like for you, how are you investing in the group? Not only resource, but how are you supporting folks with professional development and or training or certification, whatever it is that is going to bring a higher quality or a standard of excellence in this group that is now united and it is situated and it is fixed in accountable effective partnership. You want to nurture and take care of that by continuing to invest. How are you setting realistic expectations for the group? So yes, if you look behind you, you're not where you used to be, but also if you look ahead of you, you're not yet where you want to be. And so you want to make sure that you are being realistic in your expectations, that you're fine-tuning those success indicators as you make progress, that you're tightening up what tracking looks like, and you're just keeping cycles of continuous improvement so that everyone feels like what's in front of them is ambitious enough, but also achievable. That keeps people inspired and engaged for the long haul. What does support and setting individuals up for success look like is something that you want to consistently and continually think about. It's how you continue to add value to your collective space. What is the ongoing support that folks need? Do people need coaching? Do people need one-on-ones? Do people need breaks without judgment from the collective? What does it look like to set people up for success if you're sending them out as ambassadors or representation in different opportunities and partnerships, right? So you're just constantly caretaking taking for this collective. What are the pathways of positional authority that are being developed? This one is super key. If you have people that have committed their time, their energy, their mental faculties, they've been here for a little while, you've achieved all 3 phases, and you have true partnership, people who are committed and enthusiastic and being creative about their role and responsibility, a way of showing honor and a way of valuing that and setting up sustainable success for the collective is to be thinking about, how do we give people actual roles? What positional authority am I putting them in? I'll give you an example. When I was supporting a collective of parent leaders, everyone was a volunteer. Everyone received a stipend because they were all parents. But as we continued to grow and as we made our way through the 3 phases and turned the opportunity into a real partnership, it was time to start thinking about, how are we going to delegate the responsibilities and honor those who continue to show up? And so I started looking for pathways of creating positions. And so we graduated volunteers into community staff, and people actually held admin roles, and their pay changed, and they learned how to be a consultant and get into a contract, and they had a higher responsibility that required a bit more time, but they were honored for that, and it supported the advancement of the collective. And so I'm sustaining the effective accountable partnerships by putting people in positional authority. And that's it. That's my framework for building accountable, effective relationships. And as I told you in the beginning, this is a heavy lift. It's hard work. It's a lot like laundry. There's multiple phases, there's multiple steps, and it's never ending, right? Things just cycle right back through. But just like laundry, if you put the right systems and infrastructure in place, it can remove a lot of the guesswork, a lot of the hard work, and then there's the reward of having your favorite sweater back in the closet or your best pair of jeans that you can actually wear and feel like your best self. Collaboration takes time, it's ongoing, but when you put in the right infrastructure and systems, then it produces good fruit, and it can be exactly what you knew it could be from the beginning. And so this framework is meant to be something that you continue to engage with. It's abstract. It has general questions so that you can continue to engage with it. It's not fixed. It's not dogma. Every collective looks different. But as the convener or the convening team, if you're constantly asking yourselves these questions, you will build infrastructure and refine infrastructure that will sustain you and help you achieve your goal. If you end up with any questions, or you get stuck, or you need help assessing what phase you're actually in, feel free to reach out. You can reach me at tclark@rightstandingsolutions.com, or you can visit my website and engage me through the contacting platform there. I'm going to connect you with my framework. It's going to be in the description below so that you can continue to engage with it. I know you can do this because you're taking the time to investigate, to research, to find videos like this and watch them in their entirety. Don't lose that enthusiasm. Do not lose that focus. We need individuals like you who are willing to go the distance and hold really important, necessary space for the rest of us. Good luck on your endeavors, and I'll see you in the next video.